There we go. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is part of a new session for the Business Growth Network. This is where we're bringing together some of the experts out there, some of the greats, if you like, in the industry to share their knowledge with you. Now, like all things we found with lockdown, with coronavirus, we've had to move things from the physical to the online. So today's guest is not, is not someone not unfamiliar with doing things online, and it's someone who's built a business for over 20 years, in the industry of digital marketing. He's helped over 300 businesses in 12 countries across the UK get online and help their businesses grow. His main business now is Blam, and he's really working with businesses and their marketing tools to help them get greater results with their marketing agencies online in 12 different countries. It is with pleasure that I have to introduce a guest speaker, but before I do, I just want to explain to you what it is we're doing with the Business Growth Network and why we've taken the approach that we have. So the Business Growth Network has, for many of you, as you know, been doing face-to-face meetings for nearly 2 years now. And with the pandemic, we had to move things from the offline onto the online. And we've grown significantly by introducing our online membership for £25 a month. And it allows businesses like yourself to connect, grow every day by attending our meetings from 10 to 11. Never has it been more important for businesses like yourself to get yourself noticed and get yourself out there. And we're helping you do that with our online platform, but also by bringing you this type of platform for businesses to share their knowledge with their audiences across the world in some respects through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and eventually LinkedIn. So this is going to be an amazing opportunity, and our guest speaker today will be sharing some of the key skills needed in order for you to do that. Now, I just need to see, if Grant has managed to get in, and I believe he has. So welcome, Grant.
How you doing, buddy?
You're going to leave me hanging there, weren't you? Yeah, I understand you are a busy individual, and I appreciate you giving up your time to come and share with our audience today some of the key things that are going to help them grow their business, especially with the digital tools needed. And with so many of us working from home, it must be difficult.
It is. It's been, we've had to learn to adapt, haven't we? We've had to learn to use the tools that are going to help us be more effective and efficient, like we are right now. I mean, you've been doing an awesome job, by the way. I've got to say, mate, that since the pandemic started, since the lockdown started, the work that you've been doing, to connect people and to embrace the technology has been awesome, mate. Absolutely awesome. So, credit to you.
Well, thank you, mate. I appreciate that, because ultimately it hasn't been easy. Dinosaur like me catching up. And technopreneurs like yourself, who this is your industry, you know more about it than any of us. And as we said in the opening, you've got a wealth of experience. You've helped a number of businesses in 12 countries now, 300 businesses in 12 countries. And I know you're going to go into that and how you do that, how you help businesses use the internet, use digital tools to enhance their business. So what I want to do is pass it over to you, and then
Awesome.
We're going to go to a Q&A session at the end. But I'll see you in about 25 minutes. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Mark. Thanks very much. And so thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. So as Mark said, I'm Grant Stein. I'm CEO here at Blam. And we help small business owners with their digital marketing. And we've got a partnership network as well, where we've got what are effectively resellers. They go out across the world selling digital marketing tools. Sole goal is to help small to medium-sized businesses be successful online. Since the pandemic started, we've obviously seen a big sort of upsurge in interest in the business and helping businesses with their digital tools, because, as we all know, during the pandemic, we've all have to embrace digital technology in order to communicate, in order to market ourselves more than ever before. some of the statistics are crackers, really. In the first 3 months, the first 90 days of the pandemic, the growth that we saw in digital transactions and digital marketing was the equivalent of 10 years growth as to what was expected. So 10 years squashed into 90 days of a lockdown, effectively, which is mind-boggling to think about it, that, the way that small business owners have had to all of a sudden embrace this technology, that some of them of which knew nothing about it, and that's where we came in, because what we're doing right now, broadcasting to a webinar, has been something we've been doing for years, but for a lot of us this has become a new thing that we've had to embrace. So we kind of took the ball by the horns right from the beginning, and started to try and help educate as many business owners as possible to embrace this technology. One of our core values, in actual fact, at Blam, we've got 6 core values that we live by. One of them is embrace the beauty of technology. So what I want to do today, we just share with you a short presentation showing you how you can be more effective using technology, as well as some traditional tools that can be combined with technology, because it's not been easy, has it, in lockdown, motivating ourselves and being productive when there are so many distractions. So I am going to, with a bit of luck, if you bear with me a minute, guys, I'm just going to get my head around this. I've got a big monitor up here, and I'm hopefully going to share my screen with you. Short a load of windows, bear with me. All right, find the right button. There we go. Share screen. All right. There you go. Thanks very much. So that's my home screen. And I'm just going to share my presentation now. There we go. Awesome. So I've called it Tech Hacks for 2021. However, there's more to this than just technology. And I'll start just by acknowledging, lockdown life. What are the challenges that we've been facing? I think time management is one of them. We're having to learn to do things on our own now. We haven't got our, staff or our bosses, or whatever the work environment is that you're used to. A lot of us have had to find how to manage our time. So I know a lot of people have found that quite difficult. We've lost some of the accountability, haven't we? It's totally down to us at the moment to actually manage our own time. And, that's something we've all had to learn to deal with over the past sort of just coming up to 12 months. There's distractions, aren't there? Working from home, we've got kids running around, we're having to help with homeschooling, a lot of us. It's so easy, isn't it, just to flick onto Netflix, or nobody's going to look over your shoulder if you go onto Facebook. Distractions are everywhere. And then productivity, we're having to learn how to be more productive, or still continue to be productive. I think some people have found it easier to be productive, but then other people have found challenges. And then, of course, the motivation. How many of you are sat there still in your pajamas right now? How many of us, might be wearing, the branded attire beneath, but, have I got my dressing gown on underneath? Because we live our life on the screen, don't we, guys? So there's lots of things that we can do to keep motivation. But today I want to try and focus on a couple of those things: time management and accountability, because I think this is key to managing our time. And one thing I will say, at the moment, we're in lockdown in the UK. Obviously, overseas, some are in lockdown, some aren't. But on the whole, we've seen the world transition to working from home a lot more. And even as things start to open up, and as we start to get a grip on the pandemic, we're still going to be working from home a lot more than we ever did. And some of these time management tools, they've been around for years. And I'm talking, hundreds of years in some instances. And they're still as relevant today as they ever have been. But it all starts, guys, time management, in my view, with your most powerful business tool, your to-do list. Now, to-do lists, I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to to-do lists. They do fascinate me, because we've all got a slightly different way of managing our to-do list. So most people do have a to-do list, but I know that, the network that I manage is, we're talking well over 100 people that I directly sort of look after and motivate and help and inspire and manage, which are the Blam partners. And keeping a strict way of managing your to-do list is something that I know can be challenging. So I want to give you a couple of tips today, which are very traditional but still work and can be applied by some of the latest technology that we've got actioned using latest technology. And it all starts by identifying with your to-do list, what are the things that you need to do? Because, when we write that to-do list down, is it just the stuff that is, urgent? Whoever's shouting the loudest, is that the way that you organize your to-do list? Or is it just simply a case of going through your emails and see who needs reacting? Have you got a system and a process that's going to make you effective and efficient? The reason I get so fascinated by to-do lists is because I'm a bit of a kind of entrepreneurial nerd, if I'm honest. I love business. It fascinates me. It's kind of like my hobby as well as my job. And I do really enjoy studying the habits of successful people. On the one hand, because I always want a self-improvement, I'm by no means the finished article, and a lot of the problems that all of my network face, I face myself. I struggle, like everybody else, with being organized and motivation and all that other stuff. And I love looking at successful people and the way that they stay successful and how those habits that they create lead to that success. And a to-do list is one of those things that is the common trait of super successful people, the way that they manage their to-do list. So let's have a quick look at one that goes way back, which is well over 100 years old, and it's called the Ivy Lee method. And I'd recommend typing in that name to Google and just checking out the story behind this method that we haven't got time to go into now, but it's a fascinating book, and it's also got a link to one of the all-time biggest business books of all time, which is the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Ivy Lee is a character that plays a part in that book, and he went to be a super successful business coach. And within this, you will see one of the guys that he actually coached is one of the key players within Think and Grow Rich, linked to Andrew Carnegie, who is one of the key players in that book. So if you haven't read it, by the way, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, or even if you've got a business interest, if you haven't read it already, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is pretty much considered by pretty much everybody I've ever met that will sell you. That is one of the top business books of all time. So what is the Ivy Lee method? Well, first of all, it's about prioritizing how you manage your to-do list. And the first thing you do is you write down the 6, and the number 6 is very key, and no more, most important things you need to accomplish for tomorrow at the end of your working day. So it means that you have to think about the 6 things that really do need to get done tomorrow. And the important thing is you write them down the day before. You then put those 6 items in order of importance. So how do you organize them in order of importance? Well, there's lots of different sort of opinions on this. One would be, what is the most urgent and important task? I'm going to touch on this a little bit more. To prioritize that, you may want to use some kind of scorecard system. But that's something that I personally use, is a bit of a scorecard system. But also, you may want to think, particularly if you're an entrepreneur, business person, what is the fastest way to the money? Ask yourself that question when you're prioritizing. What is the fastest way to the money? And then the next day, you concentrate only on the first task when you get into work the next day, and then move on to the next item once that's completed. So you make those tasks, one after the other in order of importance. You could use that guide, what's the fastest way to the money, or what is urgent and important, that categorization. And then if you don't get all the tasks done, move the remaining tasks to your new list for the next day. And that is a really, really important thing to do, is to make sure you move them over. And in fact, you start with the one that's at the bottom of the list at the top, because that then should be the most urgent and important, or it should be the fastest way to the money. And you repeat that process every day. It's called the Ivy Lee method. It's responsible for a lot of super successful people being more effective. And it is also, sorry, I've just skipped back there. Let me just put that so that you can see it again. If you need to do a screen grab of it, bear with me. There you go. And it is pretty much acknowledged as effective today as it was when it first came out. I'm going to talk in a little bit of time of how you can actually transition that into modern working tools. But for now, I think that's something that you should consider. By the way, guys, what I've come to realize, and I found this out way back when I first started, getting fascinated by to-do lists. It was probably about 15 years ago now. And I've tried many, many different to-do lists, many different ways. What I have come to realize is there's no one size fits all when it comes to to-do list. And the reason why I just demonstrate, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple today, is because what I have realized is that, you've got to find the to-do list that works for you. In order to figure that out, you do need to persevere. So don't just try it for a couple of days and give up on it. Give it a good run. 2 weeks typically is the sort of the point at which you start to realize whether or not it's a good habit to form. And for me, although I remember my dad actually was a guy that used to use this method, and he was religious with it every day. And it served him really, really well for years. So the next one we call the time management matrix. Now, this is one that I use, and I actually use this. It's about once a week in order to help me. And I tend to fall back on this one when I'm struggling to figure out how to prioritize. The Ivy Lee method works most of the time in my personal, work life, but every now and again, and it's about looking at my diary. It's about once a week. I need to try and organize my mind to help me prioritize a little bit more effectively, because the challenge that I find personally, and I know that a lot of people have told me the same, is that trying to organize in order of priority can sometimes be taxing when you've got, really you want to put 100 things on your to-do list, and it's very difficult to get it down to the bottom 6. So we call this the time management matrix. There's lots of variations on this. And again, if you look it up on Google, you will find there's loads of variations on this that you can dive into. I find this to be the one most effective for me. So if you first of all start off in the top left-hand corner, you start by just doing a cross on the page. And I tend to do a cross on my page. And at the top, you go for a list of things that are important and urgent. So this typically is those things that are the fastest way to the money. It's the short-term goal. It's the thing that you have to manage. You've got to get them done today, otherwise there's going to be problems. So, we're talking about things that are, crucial to getting stuff done, deadline-driven problems, typically crisis. When you wake up in the morning, you look in your inbox and there's an issue that you've got to deal with. Or it's stuff that's in your diary. It's appointments that have been booked. These are important and urgent. They're unavoidable, but they're stuff you've got to get done. Moving over to number 2, not urgent but important. This is quite a fascinating one for me, because this is actually what I consider to be the most important box. That's why I've underlined it, number 2, because in business, the thing that I've come to realize is that strategy and planning and a business focus on growth and scalability is the most important part of a business. But very often with small businesses, the reason they don't scale is because they haven't got the tools in place and they haven't got the accountability to take care of those strategy sessions, because the urgent and important stuff keeps getting in the way. And sometimes the urgent and important stuff, can just consume your days, leaving you no time to focus on the other stuff that is really important, but it's not necessarily deadline focused. So we're talking about the long-term goals, like your marketing strategy, the business development, the business strategy, the stuff that's really going to help you get stuff done. Now, if you're anything like me, it's really enjoyable doing that stuff. But unless you actually diarize it and you make sure that it's in there to be done, it can get left behind, and it can be given less priority, when really this is the stuff that's going to help you scale. And carving out the time to do it is really important. And the time management matrix can help you do that by helping you understand that everything in column 2 has to be diarized. It has to be put in the diary, even though it's not deadline driven, just like it is deadline driven. And that's going to make a big, big difference to your business and to your scalability and how quickly you can scale. And then we go back down to number 3. Now, this is the not important, but they're still urgent tasks. So these are the things where quite often I find this is where people are demanding your time because it may be urgent to them, or they may see it as a priority, but it's not necessarily urgent to you, and not necessarily important to you, rather, but it becomes urgent because somebody's demanding your time. So a lot of this can be, stuff to do with dealing with, might be junk mail, or, calls from people that haven't got an appointment with you. It could be stuff that, you could be delegating, like it could be, do you need a PA, or do you need a virtual assistant? Could you give other people access to doing the research? Do you really have to take that meeting, or, is that meeting really an important or an urgent meeting, or is it not important? And this is where you have to be really effective with your time. Let me give you a quick tip that I teach my staff to do, and my partners to do when it comes to managing your time, is that if you've got somebody who's dealing with you, or taking up your time that isn't urgent to you, but it might be urgent to them, and not important, but it is something that you do want to deal with, put a deadline and a time limit on the call. So if you're managing your diary appropriately and somebody phones you out of the blue, let them know right at the beginning of the call how long you've got. So let them know, look, listen, just to let you know, I've got a call in 10 minutes. So this call's going to have to take no longer than 10 minutes. And that can work to be effective and efficient for you. And also, it's not rude. You're just being, effective with your time. And in my experience, people appreciate that, and they tend to be a lot more measured and considerate in how they take your time. And you can get a lot more done that way as well. And then when it comes to the ones that are the proper time wasting things, so the things that really can suck the time out of your day, the stuff that you can sometimes not even notice you're doing, internet surfing, using social media. Maybe it's private calls that are eating into your work time. Time wasted calls, as I've just kind of talked about, some of that can fall into category 3 as well. This is the stuff that you've got to work hard to make sure that it doesn't suck time out of your day. Because the one thing I will say, guys, in my experience and my study of super successful people, they are absolutely ruthless with their time. One of my sort of key messages, I've got it on my wall just here, is be ruthless with your time, because time is the only thing that we've got in business, and the way that we use that time and how effective we are with that time is going to be directly proportionate to how successful we are in business. And during lockdowns, working from home, sometimes we can find that we're not as effective with our time because of all the things stated about distractions, etc. So that brings me on to how we keep accountable to that time, and that is calendar management. So once you've decided on exactly how your to-do list is organized, we then need to make sure that we diarize those to-dos, because back when that Ivy Lee method was first invented, there was no email. Phone calls were nothing like they used to be now. We're going back a long time when that first, probably 150 years ago, something like that, when it first came out. And that means that, the world has changed. So in order to make sure that we don't get distracted by stuff that's going on, we need to diarize it. So instead of just doing them one after the other, as it's suggested, in your day, other stuff's going to come into play from your to-do list. So we need to diarize it. We need to actually say when this stuff is going to get done, and we need to ring fence it in the diary so that we know when we're going to get it done, and we set the time limits for them. So we say when we're going to do them, because that means then we can treat them as if they are an important appointment. And that's really, really key, guys. An important appointment is, with your top client is something that you would never miss. You've got to treat your to-dos as if it's in a meeting with your top client. So you value your time just as much as you would value theirs, because that's how you can move forward and get stuff done. And that little switch in your brain of mentality can really help you be more effective and efficient. And then we need to ring fence within your calendar the time for those repeatable tasks, because every week you will have repeatable tasks that you need to undertake that's going to get you further forward with your business or with your work and with your job. And those repeatable tasks need to be diarized. Don't leave them to chance, because I guarantee if you've got, it might be a number of calls that you need to make. It could be that you need to, do things like sort out your bookkeeping or sort out your, contact management, CRM work. It could be the actual work that you need to undertake for whatever it is that you do, dealing with clients, etc. All of this needs to be diarized, repeatable appointments, so you can set the calendar so it repeats, so that you're accountable to your diary. Again, as if each one of those appointments was like an appointment with your top customer, your best client. Value your time that much. And then this is one that I found immensely useful, is to diarize your personal tasks as well. If you want to watch Netflix at the end of the night, each night or evening, put it in your diary. I diarize when I go to bed. So in my diary, it says sleep, because it helps remind me when I need to go to bed. If you're going to go to the gym or have a workout or go for a run or go for a walk, diarize all these repeatable tasks. It might be when you're spending time with your partner or your spouse. It might be when you have dinner, or lunch even. All of these things, if you put them into your calendar and manage your time, I say like a maniac, work like a maniac is one of our catchphrases that we use. You can be that organized. You can be so much more effective. And then finally, for those of you that attend appointments, sorry, that one's just flicked forward. I think there's a little bit of bug on this, so I'll just say it and you'll see it very quickly. But it's set time aside for appointments that you haven't made yet. So if your work entails having screen shares or Zoom meetings or actual appointments that you have to book, and booking those appointments might be part of one of your repeatable tasks, set that time aside in advance. In other words, if you're on the phone to somebody and you say to them, yeah, okay, let's arrange the next meeting, you can look in your diary, and if you've got time ring fenced for appointments, you can use that time and say, right, I've got space here and I've got space there. And you're going to be more effective in managing your time because those appointments are already in place and already ring fenced. And that if you don't fill that time with appointments, then you can put perhaps some of the other tasks in the place as they come up there. But I tend to find it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you leave time for appointments in your diary in advance as a repeatable appointment, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you're in the business of trying, you might be in sales or you might be in a business where you do have to book appointments, ring fencing that time makes you look so much more effective and efficient when you're dealing people, when you let them know, right, I've got time here and I've got time here set aside. So set time aside for appointments you haven't made yet. And so finally, just to come up sort of a bit of an overview, I've got a little list of tools that I've come across that I find effective, that are the tech tools that I would recommend, some of which you may find quite unconventional. And these are tools that I use myself, and I've been given by other super successful people, by people that I look up to and are trying to learn from and aspire to be like. Like I say, we're all on a journey. And I share these tools with as many people as I can, because I know that being effective and efficient with your time, it's a phrase I use a lot, being effective and efficient with your time is the character of super successful people. And using tech tools to be more effective and efficient is one of the key things that we can embrace to be more effective. So first of all, quite simply, using your calendar app on your phone, on your computer, effectively is key. So what I've just talked about, calendar management, but making sure that every time you set an appointment, you utilize the tools within the calendar in order to get the most out of it. Such as, if you're using Google, for example, you can set reminders on the appointments. You can actually set 2 reminders on appointments. If you're using a calendar booking system like Calendly or vSeater or Appointedly, some of these appointment booking systems, you're using text messages to remind people prior to the appointment. So calendar management and using those tools effectively, making sure that, if you're doing Zoom meetings, are you putting the Zoom link into the meeting? Or if you're using Google Meet, are you putting the Google Meet link into the calendar? Using that calendar app effectively. There's another tool, actually, a lot of people don't know, especially on the iPhone, is that you can actually set a location in the calendar app, which gives you a reminder based on the trigger of approaching that calendar destination. So in other words, if I was to put a reminder when I went into the office, a reminder to say, right, I've got to call this person, I can set that up as a reminder in my calendar, make the location the reminder, and when I arrive at the office, it will trigger that message to say, don't forget to call such and such as I go into the office. You can also do it when you get for things like when you're getting out of your car or getting into your car. So lots of really cool tools within calendar apps that you can leverage to be more effective and efficient. Here's one that you might find really useful. It's called Vision Board. It's by a company called Hay House. And using technology to set our goals and understand what it is that we are, trying to achieve with our businesses is really key. And I find setting up a vision board so it appears as like the screensaver on your phone, or you can have it in the background, can be really motivational, especially as we're working from home as well. We can have it as the background for our laptop so we can see it all the time. A vision board is proven. You'd be amazed how many super successful people attribute their success to a vision board. I've got a whole other presentation on that. But it's really, really key to be able to see the things that you want to aspire towards. And the vision board app is just one of the ways you can do that. Social media, one of the things that, lots of people at the moment are complaining about social media, saying it's too time consuming. It's got a negative effect on our children and all sorts of stuff. But you know what, guys? It is also an awesome tool, not only for business in terms of the advertising and so on, but for learning. So I use Facebook actually to teach me stuff. So I've managed to use the search tool within Facebook. Instagram is another one where if you want to do research or learning, it's a great way of actually being able to learn about a particular subject. Because if you do a search and start following groups and people that are in a particular subject that you want to learn about, you will also get marketed to by the people in that industry, whereby you can get lots of free training, loads of learning. It's just, you can see there's huge positive benefits to Facebook if you don't get sucked into it. If you are effective and efficient with the way that you actually diarize the time that you spend on it. Remember, with Facebook, if the consumption that you have is based on learning during work, and you are a contributor rather than a consumer, it's a very, very powerful tool. Bit like we're using right now. At the moment, we're using Facebook. I'm providing learning through the Facebook. Hopefully that learning is of use to you. I'm being a contributor to it. Hopefully you're being a consumer from a learning perspective. But just after this, don't get sucked down the rabbit hole of all the, the cats doing stupid things and stuff when you're at work. That's the danger. And then this one's brilliant, given to me by a guy called Dan Pena, absolute legend of a guy. It's Dan, D-A-N, Pena, P-E-N-A, pronounced Pena. For those of you that don't like foul language, don't look him up. But for those of you that like motivational learning from a billionaire, he's an absolute legend of a guy. And I went to see him in London give a talk, and he gave me this app as a bit of advice to use, and it's called Think Up. And Dan Pena, much like thousands of super successful entrepreneurs, will write down their goals and their aspirations, and they will repeat them back to themselves in the form of an affirmation in order to pre-program their mind to be thinking about the things that they want to achieve. Really, really common that people do this, and it's not widely known because it does sound a bit weird. But when you get into the habit of it, it's really key. What Think Up does as an app is it allows you to record those affirmations, in other words, the goals that you want to aspire to, into the app, and then it can play it back to you on repeat. So if you're in the car, or if I do it when I'm in the shower, I just put my phone next to the side of the shower, I put it on really loud, play the app, and it repeats my goals to me that I've recorded myself into it on repeat. And as I achieve those goals, I knock it off and add a new one. Really, really cool app. And again, lots of top entrepreneurs use this. And then, look at where else you can learn. There's loads of stuff out there that can help you be effective and efficient. Podcasts, Audible, stuff like we're doing right now. There's so much stuff out there. But again, if you diarize the learning and when you want to do it, you can find the content really easily. Just be effective and efficient. And then don't forget your to-do list, using those reminders and tasks. So, we can make sure that reminders and tasks effectively sync with our diary. And by the way, reminders is an app on Apple, and tasks is an app on Google, Android. And it means you can sync with your diary to actually use those reminders and to use those pop-ups, those push notifications to remind you to get stuff done. And then we've got a little tool ourselves as well, which may be able to help you. That's completely free to use, which is called Blamability, and this sits very much in the area of what we call the accountability, and we call it a cookbook. And it looks a bit like this. Basically, you can sign up for free to Blamability. We call it a cookbook because within Blamability, you can put down all of the repeatable tasks that you want to achieve, and you can track them throughout the week and record them and have a diary of all those tasks. I'm talking things like, if you have to make sales calls, or if you need to do Facebook posts, LinkedIn activity, it might be your learning tasks, the appointments that you need to make, or it could be the actual productivity of the work that you need to do. You might have to do repeatable tasks. Any repeatable task that leads to your success, if it is measured, it can become accountable. And this tool allows you to measure it and be accountable to the tool. And that is what effective and efficient people do. And we find that, especially since we've been in lockdown, especially since we're working from home so much more, accountability is really, really key. So it's a really powerful thing. As I say, it lists your actions, tracks your targets, keeps you accountable, and you can register to it. And it's actually it's out of beta now. It's ready to go. So you can register at blam.online, blam-ability, and we'll get you set up with your free account. It's completely free. There's no catch. There's no big upsell or anything like that. It's a tool we use for all of our partners. So we've just opened it out so that when we do presentations like this, we can give other people access to it, to that section. And we find that it's, a really good tool to help you be accountable. But you've got to be accountable to filling out the data and making it habit. And I hope you find that useful, guys. So just to finish off, takeaways are: embrace technology, find the right to-do list, make sure your actions have accountability. And then, as I said, if you want to be super successful, work like a maniac, guys. That's the only way to do it. Work like a maniac. Awesome. So I hope you've enjoyed that, guys. I'm going to escape out of this now, and we should be back in the room.
Yeah, do you know what, Grant? We got some guests who've joined us for Q&A, but before we do, I find it fascinating when I listen to you sometimes, and it is repetition is the mother of all things, you know that. And I sit here now and I'm thinking, damn, he's talked about that. And then I think, well, I'm doing some of that. So 10 o'clock in the morning, it's always on the call with with the members, just talking about what they're doing in the networking. But before 8 o'clock every morning, I'm manually just updating lists. And obviously that's my to-do list, and updating the list for the members just to say what's going on. Because yes, we're relying on technology, but I've just put it in my own head. This is what I need to do. And one of the things I looked at here was diarising your sleep. This is something, really. My wife said to me, someone said, "What is wrong with you? So grumpy." I said, "Because you're coming to bed at like 12 o'clock and getting on your phone and waking me up." I says, "I'm already asleep. I don't need this. So it's kind of like getting up. It's like, yeah. But
The marital advice session is next week, mate.
But the vision boards, love that. Going to look to download that app there, type thing, and looking at your calendar management. I think that's off the bat what we're trying to get now is all people send you over the links, all the rest of it. I didn't know about that with the iPhone. I really didn't. For the location, say remind.
Really cool that is. A lot of people don't know about that one. It's very easy to use. You just use your reminders app. It syncs with your diary, and it'll ping either when you get out your car or when I do it so that if I've know things that it's like you come in on the train, you're on the phone, you walk in the office, the stuff you need to do, but because you've been on the phone, you forget, and so it just triggers that notification as you walk. Don't forget to whatever XYZ.
Absolutely. I'm just going to bring someone a guest in a second, but I'll finish up on this. Your own, inviting people to use your system. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, it really is, because sometimes you're looking around trying to find the right one, and there's so much cost associated with it. Even if it's £5 a month, £10 a month, sometimes it's like, well, I want to try it and see if it works first. So I think it's great that you've obviously put that out there as well for people.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using Blamability with our partners for a while now, and it's
we do the hearings as well.
Oh, sorry, and we kind of thought to ourselves, do you know what, we do a lot of these kind of talks and presentations. It's actually no skin off our nose to give it to people for free, because we've got the system already, and we know it. We know that it really works, but it does. You do have to be accountable to being accountable, and that's the trick. Yeah. You've got to fill it in, and you've got to track it, and it's almost like there's a few things that you can attribute to success, in my view, that are consistent. And one of the things is, when I look at successful people, they all work like maniacs. I've never met a lazy successful person. They're all maniacs, every one of them. And so you've got to embrace that. If you're not a maniac, you can almost guarantee you're not going to be successful. It goes without saying. So if you're not a maniac, get a job.
Get it. Yvonne, you're in the room. Questions for Grant. I mean, thank you for joining us. I mean, what I want to do here is, and each month when we do the webinars, we're invite some of the audience online just to join us. So, Yvonne, you have a question for Grant?
No, I wanted to say thank you, because a lot of the stuff you said today, I'm already doing, or my company's already doing, and it's good to hear it being repeated and reminded of it, and especially the Blam app and the cookbook. I'm very interested in that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Fantastic. And we got Bruno here today. Bruno's also one of our members. But Bruno, you often find things like this very useful. Have you got any questions for Grant? Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for hosting this, Mark, and awesome talk there, Grant.
Cheers, Bruno.
I certainly agree when you're saying how people, so entrepreneurs, but also people in employment, they've almost had to become their own office manager, looking after absolutely everything with working from home, the distractions, etc. I just wanted to ask, we're all focused on lockdown, doom and gloom, COVID at the moment, but are there any skills that we could perhaps apply once we're not in lockdown? How do you see these skills sort of playing out? I think COVID's put a real emphasis on the holes in our skills, the things that we lack. We can't discipline ourselves or manage our time. Sort of, how do you see that playing out over time, if you can?
Yeah, I think we can all pretty much agree that there's going to be there's going to be many more people working from home after lockdown than there were before. I think we've seen this migration to home working, and we've realized actually we can make it happen, because when we use the right tools, we've found that we can actually be more effective and efficient working from home than we did previously. My personal view is that the way we are likely to see things work now is that we'll see this kind of balance between coming into the office, and this obviously is we're talking about this kind of people that are usually they would have commuted to the office every day, worked in the office with a team, so the vast majority of office workers. I'm sure we're going to see this transition where there'll be more flexibility. So there'll be, I think we still need that human contact. We've all missed it desperately, however, spending 2-3 days in the office and a couple of days at home, I think is now going to be much more the norm. And therefore the tools to do with motivation, diary management, accountability, meetings like this will be the skills that we carry on using now forever. I think to a certain extent that stat about 10 years into the future in that 90-day period, which is fascinating, most of that came down to the fact that we had to do stuff online. We didn't have a choice. The big businesses were the ones that benefited from it initially, and that big boost in that transition was because they already had the stuff geared up. In the same way, it didn't actually change the way we did business because we were already digital, we were already online, we already had staff working from home. But small businesses had to work really hard to catch up, and they've done that hard work now. So it'd be nice to think there's much more of a level playing field, having gone through the pain. Where that whole sort of mixed working from home, working from the office balance is now the norm.
That's so. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno, and thank you, Grant. And thank you, Yvonne, for joining us today, and especially to yourself, Grant, for sharing such amazing tips for us to obviously grow business and move it forward. So with that in mind, I'm just going to tell you what we're going to do next. So next month is going to be Maz Iftel. She's a public speaker. One or two of you may have met Maz online before. She's going to really share with you the journey, if you like, for businesses using technology like Zoom and the etiquette that is needed now when you're online. So that'll be on the 16th of March. That's same time, 12 till 12:45. We'll be bringing on board, guests to question our speakers like we have done today. And if you do want to see Grant's, presentation today, the great news is it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on the Business Growth Network channel. It's, been on Facebook. It'll be sitting there for a while on the Business Growth Network groups and pages. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the start of something new. And as Grant says, small businesses are getting their head around what the big boys have been doing for so long. Thank you for Grant. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Grant, for giving up your time. I know you're busy.
No problem.
Yeah, everything.
My pleasure.
You take care.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.